And there are fewer dollars, as we know, there are fewer dollars for women-owned companies, for Black-owned companies, and now I'm, starting from scratch, my own company. I'm starting not just from zero, but from negative, right? Because of
it's just something that I live that this world don't live. It's just something that I feel that this world don't feel.
Welcome to the Let Bob Podcast. It's your boy Ant. We got a very interesting guest on the podcast today. It's going to be really cool to learn more about her product and who she is. And Country Boy going to try to pronounce her name correct. She got
good luck on that. You know what? I'm gonna let you just try it and see how you do.
Let's say Country Boy going to say Fanshen Cox.
You got it.
Woo, Country Boy.
Perfect.
I'm on fire today. This is going to be a good interview. I got the name right starting out.
Perfect start.
Talk to us about your company. Now, you throwing all these hard names at Country Boy, but I'm trying,
well,
right?
now you got to try the company name too.
Okay,
let's hear it.
Let's see what we can do. I'm going to call it TruJuLo.
Perfect.
Ooh, I'm killing it. So tell us, what is TruJuLo actually? Talk to us about that.
Yes. When I tell you, it might help with the pronunciation a little bit. So TruJuLo stands for truth, justice, and love. So that J is for justice.
All right.
And I'm a film, TV, media production company, and we uplift stories that speak truth in pursuit of justice in service of love. So TruJuLo.
No, I like that.
Thank you.
So I'm sure you have some interesting content
We
on
do.
your media, right?
We really do. Yeah, we have the Sister Brunch podcast. So I'm the producer host of that. And we interview Black women and gender expansive people thriving in entertainment and media. Okay. We're in our 5th season right now. We just launched in celebration of Black History, Black Futures Month. Okay. I've got feature films that we've executive produced. I've got 2 short films that did really well last year. One went to Sundance and one qualified for the Oscars. So, we making things happen. But I know I'm going to have to talk financials on this podcast. So
we might not necessarily.
But those are my accolades. Those sound good.
We might get into some financials. We might.
Should.
So talk to me. How did you get into space? Like, what made you, attack this journey of life?
Yeah, I was an actor for a long time. I started off in theater, and it's still my first love. And I moved out to LA in about 2001 to really learn about film, performing in film and TV, and really struggled with it honestly for about 10 years, mostly because the creative minds in Hollywood tend to be very limited because they don't represent all of us. And so their perspectives are limited. And especially for me, so my mother is white, she's Danish and Blackfeet and Cherokee. My father is Jamaican. He immigrated here from Jamaica in the 50s. And, I found that Hollywood did not understand that this is what Black looks like. And this is what, a variety of cultural heritages look like, and they weren't telling those stories. So I eventually learned how to tell my own stories. I went back to school, did an MFA, and my thesis was a one-woman show, and that show took off. Okay. Got to tour with it for about 7 years. I also had well-known executive producers, which are Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. Okay. We all grew up together, and part of the show was kind of revisiting our childhood. So that really spoke to them. And then after a couple years of touring the show, I also started working with them at their production company at the time called Pearl Street Films, where I was the SVP of development and impact. Okay. So I've learned, kind of on the go, I've learned how to do more executive producer type work as well.
No, that's good stuff. So
thank you.
In this journey, talk about some challenges you had. Like, what were some of the obstacles faced, because you have some, right? People see the finished product.
No doubt.
Man,
I think it's all shiny and, my finished product is still not quite where I want it to be too. So I think, as I mentioned, I think first and foremost, trying to work in an industry that has limited perspectives. The gatekeepers have limited perspectives, right? Like, cisgender white men make all the decisions still in Hollywood, even though we're gaining a lot of kind of more powerful Black storytellers, Indigenous storytellers, Latino storytellers. But for a long time, because they were the ones making the decisions, they weren't really valuing our stories. And so I think for so many of us, that's a huge challenge. The challenge I'm facing now, and I know we're going to talk about a little bit in this podcast, is financial, honestly, because when I was working as an executive, we had a studio deal, so I had a nice salary, I had benefits, I had all those things that make you comfortable, an expense account even. And now I'm, starting from scratch, my own company. I'm starting not just from zero, but from negative, right? Because of
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So I think really that's a big challenge I'm finding right now. And there are fewer dollars, as we know, there are fewer dollars for women owned companies, for Black owned companies. And so that's probably my biggest challenge at the moment.
Well, good news is you shouldn't
You've got
feel
money for
that
me.
you.
Is
No,
that the good
no,
news?
no, 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 ain't no good news. We Black on too. So the good news is that it's not just you. Sometimes you're
No
on your
doubt.
journey and you feel like it's just you dealing with that.
Hmm.
As a Black business owner, more specifically a Black female founder, access to capital is just a challenge in the marketplace for us all, right?
Hmm.
And so that was one of the wealth gap challenges we're trying to break, right? How do we
Yes.
get
Yes.
capital available without all these crazy contingencies that you
Hmm.
generally won't meet as a Black business, right?
Hmm.
To your point in the acting space, it's very similar in the financial space
Yeah.
where criteria is established by those who don't look like us. And
Right.
so if you don't look like us, you don't te- you generally don't understand the
Yeah, you
journey.
don't value our businesses, you don't value, right, like, what we have to say, and yet, y'all making money off of us. I
Uh,
mean, really, like, they're
no,
starting to get that, but, right, like, they do understand us because when it comes to us paying for the things that they create, they understand, us, right? They market to us.
of course.
But when it comes to giving us the money so that we're the ones that earn the money for the things that we create, that's where the barriers
Yeah,
go
'cause
up.
that disrupts the business model, right? It's
Right.
understood we're a consumption culture. So
Mm.
we're out of place when we're trying to own an issue, right? That don't align with the narrative of this country. And so it's a hard conflict of interest,
Mhm.
right? Should I empower you to be self-sufficient or keep you dependent upon our
Mhm.
business model? And so I
Mhm.
think
Mhm.
that's the challenge,
Yeah.
with change in the culture. However, you still have to have allies as you try to bridge this gap, right?
Yes.
I think people like yourself who take on the initiative to establish something of your own and deal with those obstacles and struggles, right?
Mhm.
It's hard to make a decision to start from negative.
Sure
It's
is.
one thing to be born into negative, but it's another thing to make a decision to go into negative to try to, achieve a dream or establish something have in your vision, right?
Yes.
So it's always admirable to talk with someone who's taking that risk, right? So when you pull up in the Bentley or the Rolls Royce or whatever the car is, like you're deserving of it because nobody's gonna see all the work and all the negative
That's
days
right.
and all the lack of capital.
Rejection and
Yeah,
the questioning and the self-doubt and
you know
mhm.
that stuff is not made available, and so I heard an analogy used. I think it was on another podcast I was watching where he was saying that success is like the game of golf, right? So when you watch golf, technically you only see the one player hitting the ball.
Mm, mm,
You never see the team of people
right.
that's in place to help him get to the place where he's hitting that ball. It's not like other sports. So in basketball and football, you see all the teammates, right? You see the
Yep.
coaches, the other players assisting the stars. But in golf, you have an illusion of this only one person who's doing it. And I think
That
success
a
is like that,
mhm.
right?
I was gonna say that applies so deeply to film, right? Because in television, because and I'm a little biased because I'm married to an editor. But, seeing so the Bob Marley movie, the One Love movie, he worked in post-production on that movie, and it's a perfect example where absolutely the director deserves his credit, the Ziggy Marley, the Marley family, everybody deserves all their credit, but we don't even know the names of the people who really took all that footage and then distilled it into this film that broke records on Valentine's Day. I'll say as well, but that's the thing is like often you don't get to see all of that work that goes into it and to your point all the people. Now I'm trying to find the people because when you're in the negative numbers you also can't hire anybody, so
Yeah, you're bargaining, right? You're begging for that sweat equity
100%, yes,
and
yeah,
in them to believe in your vision, right?
yeah,
I'm what you call a servant leader, right? And so my team will tell you, like my team, no man, I love my team. Like I treat them good,
mm,
like
mm,
from the the executive all the way to the non-exec part of my Bob family. They all
yes,
know like I treat everybody the same. I don't really,
mm,
care about I'm not gonna say I don't care. I don't put different value on contribution,
uh,
right?
yes,
Um,
yes,
everybody's contribution is necessary for this machine to work. Right. I
oh
use
yeah,
cars all the time as an example. If you take the lug nuts off a car, they're very small pieces. But if you take them off, the car can't go in,
mm,
right? So you have to show appreciation for everybody. And I think sometimes, leaders forget that and they don't treat everybody in the same capacity.
yeah,
I came from the corporate world and I experienced that a lot when the executives would
mhm,
come in. Someone would speak to you and someone wouldn't
mhm,
value in some cases. I was never a fan of that. I'm a country boy. I come from a rural country
where
village.
you from?
This small city called McCalla, Alabama. It's outside of
Oh,
Birmingham.
wow,
Um,
yes,
interesting fact, it's where Bo Jackson played football.
okay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yes,
But coming up in that community, you just have a different appreciation for people.
mhm.
So this whole idea about walking by somebody and not speaking, like, nah, that wasn't tolerated by any means. Like anybody in the
Don't
name.
come to Hollywood. Or they'll speak to you once they see your Bentley or that it's like that's how they determine whether or not you're worthy of their time.
I've heard that. I haven't experienced that so much, like in the entertainment space, but like I said, the corporate space.
Mhm,
I don't know if they would have done that. If they saw what I was driving, or they understood my values to the company. But
mhm,
you're always people first, regardless what you're driving or what value add. You're a
100%,
person first, right?
100%,
Yeah.
yes,
So, question: I was told that you have been called a change maker by
yes,
Forbes. Can
mhm.
you elaborate on that? Like, what's up with that?
Yeah, so, that article is referring to so I co-authored something called The Inclusion Writer. So while I was working with, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, I got together with 2 other women. One is a data analyst, so she looks at representation in film and TV and breaks down where people are underrepresented. And then honestly, they put this data out to kind of shame the industry into doing better. And then the other woman we worked with is Kalpana Kodagal, and she's a civil rights attorney. And we created a legal document, a template for inclusive hiring so that people like Matt, Ben, Michael B. Jordan signed on to use this as well. The Recording Academy used it for the Grammys. They take this into their negotiations or when they're doing their hiring so that they're following a process of inclusively hiring, really thinking about the decisions they're making, starting with something like what they do in the NFL, the Rooney Rule, is like we have to start by making sure that when we have open positions, we're broadening even the people that know that this position is open. We're not going to go directly just to our friends like they normally do in Hollywood. We're going to broaden that pool. Then after that, you actually set targets around how you're going to hire. So
Okay.
you actually make an effort and you say, we don't have enough LGBTQ cinematographers in the industry. So we're going to hire one. We're going to make sure that we look for that first on this film to hire always qualified people, right? But certainly you make an extra effort to find those people to lift them up. Then once you do that, our third step is that you actually collect the data. So it's not enough just to look around and say, "Oh, we did a great job." No, you actually have to ask people, how do they identify? How do they walk in the world? How does the world perceive them? Then you collect that data. And then our last step is for you to compare your collected data, how you did in your hiring to the targets that you set. And any of those places where you fell short, we ask that you make a financial contribution or even an in kind contribution to organizations that serve to uplift exactly those kinds of people and those roles that you said were too hard for you to find a hire. So I took the film Air, which Ben Affleck directed. Recently, I walked that production staff through using the inclusion writer, and they had a really great outcome. They hired inclusively cast and crew, so we were really proud of that.
No, I love it. Being from a software background, metrics are always good.
Always good, absolutely, and you know, I think sometimes I mean, look, I do sometimes err on the side of, like, pointing fingers and being like, "You should have just known to do better." But data matters, right? When you put the data in front of people, I know that's what happened with Matt and Ben, is when we actually I was like, "Y'all have been in the industry for 20 years, how do you not just look around the room and see how white it is?" But in reality, they didn't. Like, that's just, when you're white, like, you don't notice how white everything is, right? But then when they had
Oh,
that quantitative data in front of them that showed this is actually who's missing there. These are the voices that you care about who aren't being represented. Then when they had that in front of them, that's when they were like, okay, we need to do something proactive about it. So yeah, that quantitative data. And then the qualitative too is like, it's important then for us to know, okay, you hired inclusively, but what was the experience of the people you hired? Because just because we get in there doesn't mean if we had a good time on that
correct,
set.
correct.
Yeah, yeah.
No, you're making some very valid points, right? And it's hard for people to conclude this, but I'll make this statement. It's a very strong statement. That's financial literacy, right?
Oh, okay.
Yes, because financial literacy is not just about knowing how to manage money. It's
Mm,
knowing how to include others so that they have access to the money in the first place.
I love that.
Right. If you're not intentional about sharing opportunity, that's financial literacy.
I
And
love
so
that.
being aware that you're not being included is a very high level of financial literacy, right? So you do something about it, right? And I think that those types of financial literacy discussions generally, don't happen.
I would love to share something about that because my first name is Chinese. Now, I'm
Okay.
not Chinese. As I said, my mom is white, my dad is Jamaican, and I got this Chinese name. So, Fanshen means to turn over. So my parents were self-proclaimed hippie communists in the late 60s. They were Black Panthers, they were activists, right? And they were reading different books around, they wanted to decide where they were going to raise me and my brother, and they found this book called Fanshen about a village in China. And this village took on the word Fanshen because it means to turn over. They took it on to mean like turn over the power structures, right? Like, women down here, men down here, and turn this over so that things are more equal. And in a lot of ways, that meant for me growing up, okay, so I need to think about community, right? Like we can't turn things around unless we're working in community. But also a bit of a disservice I think my parents might have done to me is also like that capital was a negative word in my household. And so now when I start my own company and I'm like, community is everything, but also I do need to make money and I need to make it in order to continue to make impactful projects and also work in community. So now I'm seeing, and it's exactly what you just said. I do see that when my first focus is community, that is what capital ultimately looks like. That is how you grow it, right? And then when you get it, you put it back into community, you put it back into impact, into really helping to try to change things in the world. So I'm grateful that you're telling me my parents might have been on the right track, even though I grew up thinking like these hippies made me broke.
No, I mean, every journey has a level of financial literacy in it, right? It could be
Mhm.
good or bad.
Yeah, it's literacy nonetheless, right? Like, yeah, you still
You could be
right.
learning wrong, right? You could be
Mhm.
very literate in the incorrect way of doing something.
Right, 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 right,
So,
right.
like,
Yeah.
I remember something I said I'd never want to be like a victim of, and that was I want to do something on Friday. Like I remember growing up and everybody like, when I get my check Friday, I'm gonna do this. When I get paid Friday, I'm gonna do this. I never wanted to be of that attitude. I always wanted to be in the position to, if I wanted to do something, just do it then.
To
Right.
do
I
it
don't
then.
want to be bound
Mhm.
to when I get
Okay.
paid on Friday, right?
Mhm.
That was literacy I did. I learned that growing up. And so I did experience a portion of my life where when I got paid on Friday, I was kind of programmed to think, okay, now I can do something.
Mm.
Fortunately for me now, that's not the case. But again, it's just an example of how you can have a strong belief on something that's not correct. Um,
Yeah.
so talk about your personal financial journey though. So like
Mm.
do you feel like you've been on your finances your entire journey, or was there times where you're just like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, these lights or the water? One of them not gonna get paid.
Yeah, and, yesterday no, I, yeah, personally, I I took out a lot of loans, honestly, like, I think that's where, I didn't have a lot of literacy around, like, choices, around school, right? Like, I understood that I needed to go to school. Both of my parents were first generation college students, and so that by then, it was then instilled in me and my brother were going to school, but then there wasn't a conversation about how we were gonna pay for it. So I, not in hindsight, I didn't do a lot of like digging into finding scholarships and things like that. I was just automatically, oh, I apply with the FAFSA and I take these loans out. I ended up getting, a bachelor's and 2 masters. So I
Ooh,
got a lot of loans,
ooh,
right?
ooh.
All on loans, all on loan.
Geez, what school?
University of Michigan was the
Ooh,
best. Mhm. Teachers College, Columbia University.
ooh.
Yeah. Now, it did get cheaper. My final MFA was the cheapest MFA in the country. That's why at least I got smart around that. So that was, Cal State LA. And honestly, in a lot of ways, the most valuable one. But, because it really leads, it feeds me in terms of the kind of, storytelling I do.
Mhm.
But yeah, so, around loans, I could do better, and now I know that. And I learned, as a matter of fact, I learned that from becoming certified by WeBank, the Women's Business Enterprise National Council, and their financial literacy classes and their all of their entrepreneurship classes. I was like, "Oh, this all directly applies to personal, and if you get it right in your personal, you can get it right in your business." So I kind of learned it backwards, honestly.
Well, no, actually, you make a very valid statement. I say that to people all the time. You should manage your personal life like you would manage your business.
Mhm,
And if you
mhm.
can look at it like that, fat early on, it definitely puts you in a different position, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad. It depends on the type of debt. Like as a business, you have to understand when I'm going to leverage debt, when I'm going to leverage equity, and when I'm going to leverage revenue, right? And so that's a challenge of running any business. But in a personal life, it should be managed the same way. When you're gonna go buy a house, most people think you should pay cash for a house. I'm not a fan of that. Just because your house can be a liability if not, purchased correctly. And
Mm,
so when you put a lot of cash in a home, cash sitting in a home can't make more money immediately. If it goes up in value, it could make you some money over time,
mhm.
but still have market risk and you can run into an opportunity where the market drops on you, and whatever cash you put in the house could lose value.
Mm.
So understanding your ultimate goal, right? Just like a business. Every business should have a strategy, 5-year, 3-year forecast. Personally, you should be doing the same thing. So I'm not gonna say you learned it backwards. I'll say you got the business experience and you were smart enough to say, hey, I didn't do this to my personal
Mhm.
my personal life.
Yeah.
So no, it's good. But you should definitely be proud of yourself. You didn't quit. You still
Not gonna quit. That's not gonna happen. Yeah, not
yeah,
gonna quit.
that's good. You shouldn't, because when you quit, you never know. Right?
Right,
That's
right.
the option.
Yeah.
So for me, I always enjoy having these discussions with fellow entrepreneurs to hear their part of the journey, because everybody needs to see this part. So that when you
Mhm.
think about, hey, I'm going to start my own business, it's not just a title to be a founder or a CEO. There's a lot of work, a lot of trial and error, a lot of obstacles, a
Yes.
lot of sleepless nights, a lot of doubting at times. it's, it's a lot. It's a real journey. It's only something a founder can understand, but as a black founder in America, it's only something a fellow black founder can
No
understand,
doubt.
male or female.
No
It's
doubt.
a different journey. So we embrace it over here at Bob.
Yes.
Be a black owned business. We love it. We
Yes.
prideful with it, and we're thankful that you spent some time with us. But it looks like we're out of time.
Thank
So
you
you
so
have
much.
any social media you want to put out there? Any books? Anything you want to tell the audience?
Yes, definitely. So, TruJuLo's website is www.trujulo.com. So, TruJulo, Truth, Justice, Love. So, TruJuLo.com. And our Instagram is TruJuLo Media. And then I'd love anybody who is interested in working in film, television, media, listen to our podcast, because all of our guests are Black women and Black gender expansive people, but it is for everybody. We're 5 seasons in. There's just truly a treasure chest of advice to anybody who's interested in the industry, whether you want to be a cinematographer, whether you want to be an executive, a writer, any of those things. You can listen to these women. We uplift them. We serve to uplift them and archive their stories. They share their personal stories and their work stories. And that's called Sister Brunch. We're on Instagram at Sister Brunch Podcast and on Apple, Spotify, etc. And it's spelled Sista, Sister Brunch.
Nah, that's good. That's good stuff.
Thank you so
And
much.
I have a buddy here in Birmingham. He's doing some stuff with Tyler Perry.
Oh,
For
nice.
kids. They're trying to get more kids, more black kids into acting. I need to make a connection. I need to link you guys. I think it may be some synergy there on what you're doing and what he's doing. I'm sure he has women or young girls involved in his camp. He's
I
getting a lot of
love
partners.
I'll say this season we have 3 co-hosts that were alumni from Black Girls Film Camp. So we brought them on to just co-host a couple of the episodes, and they're amazing. And so absolutely, I love because ultimately that's why we do the podcast, is we want more girls and young women to listen and know that it's just like you mentioned, we're not alone in this journey as Black entrepreneurs. They won't be alone in this journey as Black women in the film and TV industries. Like, we're here. They got aunties, who will help and embrace them and share in the challenges and in the joys.
Nah, that's perfect. And that's what this is about, connecting dots, like
Love it.
connecting different organizations or businesses
Right.
where we can benefit, each other in some way, form, or fashion. So I'll make sure I make that connection. And then,
Thank you.
yeah, I really want to start on this podcast wearing merchandise from my guests. So like I only
I'm trying to figure out why I didn't have a T-shirt before this interview, because
Ooh,
I like that shirt, and I'm like, yes.
okay, okay.
But you got to promise to wear a Sister Brunch T-shirt too on some of these. So we do a little swap.
Come on, hey, I'll do it. That's why I said, give me your merch. I'll rock it. I only
I love
rock
it.
black owned business stuff on the podcast. So
Right.
I'll do my brand. I'll do brands that I, assist with.
Mhm.
I think I should start doing my guest brands. Like that's what I want to do with my look and feel. I'll go buy hats, shirts,
Love
shoes
it.
to make it all come together, right? So let's commit to sharing some merchandise.
I'm down. Yes, definitely.
All right, well, cool. Again, thank you for being on.
Thank you.
That's been another great episode of Let Bob Podcast. You can find us on all social media at We Are Let Bob, and you can find me personally at I Am Let Bob. Thanks, and we are out.